We are meeting to discuss this year's Independence Day's event. Karen, I wanted to thank you for putting this together for us. I didn't really want to wait another 2 weeks for us to start having official conversations about everything. And I wanted to thank everybody who has taken the time to have conversations with me over the past couple of months. There's been a lot of me pushing things back onto everybody to review contracts, get specifics, just to make sure we had all of our bases covered in case we found ourselves in a situation where we can't proceed with the event. We needed to make sure that our funding was secured and not compromised. So I sent, my kid just showed me his YouTube channel and we're there. Yes, thank you. So anyways, that brings us all together tonight. Tom, thank you for your conversation that we had yesterday. It was really yesterday or the day before. I'm not quite sure what day it is. They all run together right now. Courtney, you spent a lot of time on the phone with me and I appreciate that. We're really going to need your help depending on how things turn out here. So unless anybody has anything pressing, we'll get started. No? All right. We need to discuss this year's event and where we sit in the community as far as whether or not we can proceed with this event, or if we need to change it, or if we need to cancel it altogether. So I'm going to kind of open up the floor and get everybody's feedback. Obviously, I think that we are in a position where it's pretty well known we are not going to be able to proceed as normal and have the event down in the park like we normally do. So the feedback that we're looking for is, I want everybody's opinion and feedback from your perspective angles of this event on what you think about canceling it or changing it to look different, what the city's input is as far as what you guys want to see happen with this. And with that, let's kick off with you, Bob, and get the feedback from the security perspective.
Well, I think if we do something alternative to what we normally do, then the security needs are going to change, obviously. I think regardless, if we end up not having an event at all, then I think the police department will work a lot harder to monitor fireworks in neighborhoods. You know, we get a lot of complaints about fireworks in neighborhoods every year, and we just kind of choose to not make it a priority because our priority is the park and the safety of all the people that come to visit us. So that's kind of where we are. If we don't have an event, I think we're going to work with the fire department and try to step up our both education and enforcement of illegal fireworks in the neighborhoods. And I expect it will be greater than normal because we don't have an event.
Right. Okay.
Hi, Neil. I see Neil joined us.
Hi.
Hello, Neil.
Hi.
Karen, do you want to give any of your input from where you stand, what your thoughts and stuff are?
Just that with hearing what a lot of the city recorders are asking on our listserv, a lot, especially today, are you canceling your 4th of July events, or are you keeping them, or doing what? Sounds like a lot of small towns are still planning on moving forward with their fireworks displays. So maybe we can go there. So
we'll address that in a little bit.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, we're ready to go ahead whichever way is best for the community. So just give us a task and we'll do it.
Okay. Shannon, what are your thoughts? Eventually, by the time we're done, everybody giving their thoughts, we're going to go into a vote. I'm not sure. I can't see everybody who's here right now. I'm not sure if we have a quorum, but hopefully we'll get there.
I will go along with the majority. My only concern is if we do decide to cancel it, how do we communicate that to the community in a way that doesn't cause a lot of issues? Because, you know, there are factions of people who are rising up and protesting and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so that's my concern is we have to figure out a way in which to communicate this and make sure we don't create a situation that we can't control.
Okay. All right. Neil, do you have any perspective from the fire department? Any thoughts?
Well, our thoughts, kind of the direction that we're going with the pancake feed. I mean, that's 1,000 people that we bring into our building and try to feed in the morning, and there's no social distancing there. We're looking to alternatives and going to try and put together. Probably what we'll do is either like a drive-through. You know, people can drive through and pick up their breakfasts. But yeah, I mean, we're going to try and communicate that out to still provide that event as best we can, but to change the format of it a little bit. I think to make adaptations and some changes and not completely abandon the event, then I think it'll be a little better received. You know, people understand that you're trying to do the best you can.
Hazel. Yep.
Okay. So if you guys do, when you come up with your ideas about how it's going to look different, if you want to loop us in on that as well, we'll throw it up on our Facebook following, as well as we'll throw it up on our website page as well and help get that word out there for you guys.
Yeah, good.
All right, cool, awesome.
Appreciate that.
Lisa, you have spent a lot of time with me talking and brainstorming and deciding what we need to do for the sake of the vendors. The vendors have really been hounding Lisa for a decision on our end, so she's been taking a lot of pressure. A lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations, and she's done an awesome job kind of pinning everybody off while we figure this out. So what are your thoughts and perspectives as we move forward?
Well, I mean, I think having the event in the park is not really feasible with the amount of people we get in the park, and the inability to social distance, and how that would look. I don't think we would fill the park with vendors. It's May 1st and we should have a majority of our apps in right now, and we have hardly any. I've reached out to a few about an alternative idea of maybe having them set up in different parts of the city, and us communicating that, hey, you know, 4th of July is still on. It's just a little different, a little spread out. The food trucks I've talked to have been receptive of that. And a lot of them, like Pete with the Greek food truck, is already social distancing. He already has a setup for that. So that could be an idea to provide something and to give those vendors that rely on that income a possibility. But then it's, you know, who do we have? Who is self-sustaining? But definitely open to that idea. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, having an event in the park, I don't think is a feasible option. But doing something different might be, that's more spread out.
Okay. Courtney, I think with you, I'll come back to you only because you and I spent a lot of time on the phone and a lot of time kind of brainstorming and bouncing back and forth about things. So we'll visit what you and I kind of talked about in a little bit. Tom, if I know that you and I spent a lot of time on the phone talking kind of about what's to come. I don't know if you wanted to input your thoughts here. I know when we talked, you said you just kind of wanted to hang out and see what we talked about. So if you have any thoughts or input right now, you're more than welcome to present that before we make a decision.
Sure, yeah, and obviously I'm not on the committee, so I won't be voting, but I think some of what we talked about is the city really, wanting to be flexible and to, assist in how we can. I think one of the other things that we talked about is we believe that at some point in time, there's going to be one heck of a party in Independence, one way or another. We just don't know when. And, I think when it comes to that, we're hoping, regardless whether it's, August 4th or September 4th or whenever, this committee can kind of help to pull that off, because you guys have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And so, and then, there's the 4th of July, and I guess, I'm really, like you said, here to listen to what you guys think you might want to do there. But I think we certainly want to support, that, and then, hopefully be able to do something later in the year. I think to Shannon's point, if you guys do choose to just cancel it, which I hope you don't, we probably would, let's say we're postponing it, and then, start focusing that effort towards that more larger event that will happen, whenever the state allows that kind of thing, which very well maybe next calendar year. Who knows? But I think bottom line is there's a lot of enthusiasm out there about the 4th, and people have had a lot of disappointments. And if we can do something to make their lives a little brighter, then let's figure out a way to get it done.
Well, I think that's kind of where a lot of our thoughts are, is headed in that direction. Welcome, Aaron. And
Hi.
Can anybody see who the call-in?
I think it's probably Tino. Tino, are you a call-in?
I'm called in.
There he is. It's Tino.
Okay. Hi, Tino.
Hi, Bob.
So for
Hi.
Tino and Aaron, we're just kind of going around and getting everybody's thoughts, kind of before we go into voting. And I think now that you two are here, we have a quorum to vote. Just if you guys want to give your input, I had a long conversation with Tino, and he was the one who kind of sparked the thought in my head to, at one point my head was just, it's either all or nothing. And Tino was the one who actually made a comment that made me realize that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We can change it. So I do appreciate that, Tino, because that was a great conversation that we had. So Aaron, Tino, if you guys want to jump in here and give your thoughts on what you foresee coming in July, what your thoughts are about that, or we can just jump right into voting about whether we cancel the event, make it look different. Obviously, the option to move forward as normal is not on the table. We can go ahead and make that vote if you guys want to just jump into that, and then we can change the course of this meeting into how does Independence Day look different this year. So Aaron, do you want to have any thoughts or input before we jump to that part?
No, I think the idea that Tino put out there, or that you told me about, is decent. And I'm not sure how fast we can make it happen, but I think it's a good idea.
Oh, we got it. Look at how many people are here. We got it.
I'm really good at winding houses, but I'm not really good at handing out bags.
Tino, what about you? Any thoughts before we move to a vote?
You got a zoo? Is that where you're at? You got this ape walking around in the back there.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, there's always weird things going on behind me. Do not pay attention to the background. Luckily, I farmed out 2 of my kids. So, go ahead, Tino.
I'm just definitely still on board with some sort of modification. I think, an outright cancellation would be more difficult on everybody.
Okay. So, in light of all of that, does somebody want to make a motion?
Karen, I move that Independence Days move forward with an alternative celebration.
Second.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, so the motion's on the table from Karen to move forward with Independence Days with alterations. All in favor? Well, how about we raise our hand instead of saying aye, because I'm not sure we could catch everybody's eye. So if you're a commission member and able to vote, Tino, you can jump in there with an aye because we can't see you. So go ahead. Voting to move forward with modifications.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any opposed? Shouldn't be because everybody voted aye. All right. So motion passed with 5 ayes. Now, turn the page in the book. Let's talk about what it's going to look like. I'm going to take the floor on this for a little bit because I've had outside conversations with almost everybody in here. So I'm going to throw out the ideas that we have been kind of talking about, and then everything is up for discussion after that. The biggest decision we needed to make today is what direction we were going to head. We just made that. So now we can move forward to planning Independence Days with modifications. In the interest of not knowing where we're going to be in July, we would be best served to probably run 3 different contingency plans, 3 different ideas of what Independence Days could look like depending on what our restrictions are in July. Basically, we can have the same modification, well, not the same modifications, but the same idea plan, and then it just gets modified differently depending on where we're at. So one of the big ideas that came up is to not throw, because we would not be responsible for throwing anything, but get the idea out there for neighborhoods, communities, to celebrate together in small numbers. I want to say a block party type of atmosphere, but a block party could turn into something big. And not knowing where we're going to be then, we don't want to portray the wrong image, but formulating, having the community celebrating together, but separately. And a contingency plan could be, let's say we plan for being able to gather up to 500 people. What would Independence Days look like if we could gather up to that high of a number? If we can only gather up to 250 people, what would that look like? If we are sitting where we are today and we are still under the stay-at-home restrictions, then it just becomes celebrating together as a family. And some ways that we can pull the community together but still stay separate is we're fortunate enough this year that the 4th of July lands on a Saturday. We can move forward with planning a day of events that the community can engage in at the same time. And then depending on where our restrictions are, they're either celebrating in their neighborhood together with their neighbors and community, or they're celebrating, at a park if we can gather, not the big park down there, but smaller numbers in the smaller parks around the city, or they're just celebrating at their house, in their front yard, their backyard, whatever it looks like at that time. And we can move forward by planning a day of events that we throw the schedule out there for. We can provide supplies for. We're not going to generate any income coming in this year. So we have to be really frugal about the money that we spend that we're not going to recover. So obviously that would be in a very, very small capacity compared to what we normally spend. But the idea that we kind of all cultivated together as we kind of chatted was to create this day of events that we have scheduled out and we have planned out that we can supply the materials for. A couple of events that have come up are, having these little celebrations at 2 o'clock gather together in their little respective areas for a balloon toss. And then people can engage in social media as their balloon toss is going on. They can be taking pictures and they can be engaging on their Instagram page. They can be engaging on the Facebook page. If the city wants to get some of that out there, we can do that too. A thought was to reach out to WinPeg to have them join us for the day and maybe start touring the city and checking in with people who are engaged on social media to see how they're celebrating in the capacity that we can celebrate in. Coming up with a creative list of family activities or group activities that we could do for the day that would engage everybody throughout the day during various times, while still carrying on some of the traditions. Could we still do the duck derby and just have WinPeg televise it instead of people gathering down at the park? What events can we pull together? The family events, the family tent events are pretty much all planned and ready. So we could take those and get a group of volunteers from the community to separate these projects up, and families can reach out to us and they can say, hey, I've got a family of 6. As long as we put a deadline out there, they reach out to us. They've got a family of 6 people, and we deliver enough craft projects and craft supplies for their family of 6. But instead of visiting the family tent, we take it to them, drop it off a week or a few days before the 4th of July so that they can engage in those activities with their family, and again, engage on social media. And to be able to celebrate separately, but still all together. Neil, Bob, you guys might want to plug your ears for this one. But, we kind of talked about how we obviously can't have the big fireworks show for 2 reasons. One, no matter how much we try to stop it, people will come down to the park, and we'll get a vast number of people down there because not everybody can see it from their houses. And 2, we will be spending the fireworks budget this year without recovering it, so we wouldn't have fireworks funding for next year. That's the biggest issue there. But can we take some of our budget this year, and I'm glad we're on video here and nobody can reach out and smack me around, and go out and buy some of our legal fireworks. And then as people are engaging throughout the day with our activities and engaging in the celebration, as we visit these different areas and talk with people, do a little bit of Facebook Live. Like I said, maybe we can engage WinPeg to join us. As they're engaging in things, we can give out prizes in the respect of these legal fireworks. And then at 10 o'clock, when we would normally do our fireworks show, the community can have their own little set of fireworks that they can all light off together. So while it's not the big fireworks show, everybody can have their own little mini fireworks show in their area. In respect to food vendors, Lisa's done a great job of talking to people. I've talked to a couple of our really popular vendors. What is that? How do we incorporate food vendors so that everybody can enjoy an elephant ear from Pinky's? Because really, this event would not be the same without them there. So an idea and a thought that was brought around is to take some selected vendors and place them in large areas in our community. Can we utilize the parking lot at Les Schwab, go in there and talk to them, and maybe put Pinky's in there to where we can create a drive-through atmosphere, or at least be able to set up 6-foot markers for social distancing and still bring them in into our community. I don't know, Lisa, if you've talked with Pinky's yet, but I know the Umpqua ice cream trailer would be on board to come in and set up. Is it possible for St. Patrick's to set up in their parking lot where they have a big enough area to handle the traffic and stuff? They're a huge favorite in our event. And so it's just a way to bring kind of the event to our town, but still be able to abide by whatever restrictions we're under. So, Courtney and I had a long conversation because if this is going to happen, I need to engage her help. I don't have the time every day to pull this together so quickly. So we're going to kind of reach out to everybody that we can to bring in some help. So Lisa, Courtney, is there anything that we all have talked about that I haven't mentioned, or any other thoughts and ideas that are out there?
No, I think you covered everything that we kind of talked about. I was going to ask, I know we've received very few applications through the PO box, but does anyone know who has sent in applications to the city?
I think that any type of vendor receipts have been going into Karen's box.
Yeah, I've gotten 3, but I'm sorry, they're at the office. I can't tell you who they are, but 3 with checks.
Okay, so it really depends on, I mean, at this point, it would only be food vendors. So if those 3 were craft vendors, that's out. I have not talked to Pinkies. I've actually only heard from 3 or 4. And 3 of those were, so we had Kona Ice inquiring, Pete with the Greek food, Kai with Kai's Little Hawaiian, and the donut guy, but I never heard back from him.
Tom.
So I don't know what we're looking at for who would be able to participate, and then knowing that they'd need to be self-sustaining, I believe. Aaron, we probably don't have a way to set them up with power remotely.
No, not necessarily. We could, we might be able to do a few vendors, select vendors with smaller generators or something that we can rent from United Rentals or something.
Okay, so I guess my concern going forward with that would be the logistics of it and how we make that look. Some of them could work for drive up or walk up with 6 feet distancing. But the lines that we get, I mean, what does that mean? The lines at the grocery store seem to go pretty slick, but you're not looking at any kind of numbers like we might be having. But I did go to a garden center this weekend, and there were a lot of people there, and there were monitors all around, making sure that the people that were gathering in the line were spacing themselves apart, or they had tape. So I think it would just be, you know, depending on how many people can gather at a time and what the protocol is at that time. It could be difficult. It could be quite doable.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to chime in with their thoughts about this? Any concerns? I'm sure there's lots of concerns out there. Anything you would want to see added, dropped, changed, different? Like, this is just thoughts in the process of how do we make it different. So if there are any other suggestions out there, I mean, by all means, now's the time to get it out there, so that what we need to accomplish tonight was, first, deciding on how we were gonna proceed forward, and then 2, just start the initiation of planning this, because what we pull together is going to have to be done pretty quickly.
I took a couple notes. So one of my questions would be, so let's say Pinkies, they're a good example. I like them as an example, Janice, but they have I don't know about a requirement to have a large population so that they can be profitable for the weekend. Generally, that population fills the park, and I would guess that better than 60% of the people that frequent Pinkies on the 4th aren't from Independence or Monmouth. They're coming from out of town. So we're not going to have a draw. So in my mind, we're not going to have a draw to bring people in from out of town. And I don't think we want to have a draw to bring people in from out of town. So just looking at Monmouth Independence people, can we support a vendor if we, put them somewhere like Les Schwab or wherever? Is there going to be enough? I just don't want to go to all the trouble of getting them to commit and then having it not be profitable for them. We've been there before, and it makes you feel like crap at the end of the day. So I'm just not sure in my head whether or not enough people would be still participating to make it profitable for those vendors that agreed to go along with it the way that we're looking.
Okay, and those are very valid concerns. So I'll share a conversation that I had with the Umpqua trailer, the Kings Valley Charter School, who runs the Umpqua trailer, and I looped Lisa into the conversation as well. Obviously, we are not providing this huge event for them to make the normal amount of money that they would make. So what do we do with vendor fees? We can't rightfully charge them normal vendor fees. because we're not giving them the same experience or the same opportunity to make that money. So the conversation I had with Umpqua was either A, we significantly and drastically lower their vendor fee, or we don't give them a vendor fee at all. If it's not going to cost us any money to put them in a spot, we're not in a position to need to make money from them this year, because we're not going to be having the expenses that we normally have. So the conversation that we had was they would be comfortable paying $100 fee if we needed to have a fee, and they are just going to lower their ice cream order, significantly lower it. And we talked about different ways of, if this is what happens and if they are invited out to do this, how can they increase their sales? And, they have people who live in the area now. So they talked about, doing delivery. If people order $10 or $15 worth of ice cream, just delivering it to them, as well as being, there and open. They were on board with it after a long conversation of what that could look like. And I was very transparent. We don't know what we have to offer you. We don't know. There is no guarantee with numbers. There is no guarantee with customers. This is, I don't know about you guys, but this is the first for me to be in. So I offered no guarantees, full transparency, and they were all about it. I think it's going to come down to having those very transparent one-on-one conversations with a select group that we want to invite in for the day. The one other big aspect that I didn't touch on that I forgot about is I get a lot of questions about this one. The parade. The parade obviously cannot happen down Main Street. There cannot be a normal parade, but can we work up an alternative parade? What can that look like? Can we still develop small little quote unquote parade routes through neighborhoods and through towns that consist of one or two decorated vehicles, floats, whatever you might want to call them, to where you don't come out to Main Street, you don't draw a crowd in one area. Instead, you have these little mini parades that are going to go through neighborhoods. Is that feasible? Can we do that? One big suggestion thrown out there is, if we do decide to do that, can we incorporate the senior class and try to honor the seniors in some way? I know that there's been a lot of interest in that. So that's something that we need to think about, something that we need to throw out there. Can we do that? What would it look like? And of course, everybody can throw their candy going down the streets in the neighborhood. The kids can still get that. So just to put that in everybody's head, think about that as well. So, any other thoughts, ideas, feedback?
Can you survey the vendors and see what their thoughts are? I mean, if there are going to be other small towns that are going forward with their 4th of July events, I would imagine vendors are going to flock there rather than come here. But if you already have a few that you have gotten applications from, reach out to them and say, what would work for you? What makes sense for you?
We do. I think what we would end up doing is focusing on the local vendors that are already here, that are already set up, that have already been doing this. They've already set up a system. And I think we have a handful of them, enough to draw, to fill, like, let's say we have 5 or 6 areas around town where we plop them. But like Bob said, we need to be considerate. We want to be drawing locals. We don't want to be, the idea isn't to draw a big crowd from out of town. So those that have been with us forever, but that are from out of town, maybe that isn't the route to go. Unless they reach out, it's just, I haven't heard from really any food vendors, but local. So.
Well, I did find out today that the Monmouth Post Office has received quite a few apps that have been returned to people. So I'll give you a list of those. So clearly they didn't read their new application information to see that there was an address change, but I have that information for you.
That was on the email and
right.
And shared quite publicly.
Yeah. You always run into that, though. I think, you know, Lisa, to touch on what you said, if we're not going to draw crowds, that nobody's, you know, this is going to be a celebration for our community. It's not going to be something outside that people are going to come down here for. They come down for the fireworks. They come down for sometimes for the entertainment. We're not going to have that. So I don't think I'm concerned about bringing outsiders, you know, like a big group of people coming in here. I mean, unless anybody thinks differently, but I just don't see that happening for us this year.
Since there's not going to be a parade, has there been any talk about partnering with the Rotary to help out with our event instead?
Well, I don't know that the decision's been made not to have a parade. I know Karen and I kind of talked about it a little bit. They're kind of on hold, waiting for us to see what we're gonna talk about. So that would obviously need to be a partnership, you know, with them if we.
There was a Rotary meeting today, and they are still at least going through the motions, like you said, of planning for the parade. I think everybody is probably realizing that it probably won't happen, but they're still at least seeing if they can get all of their permits and getting that all in place just in case they can pull off something. So.
Karen, did you guys have any talk about altering the parade, making it different or anything like that?
No, we didn't. There weren't too many of us there. It seems like with our Zoom meetings for Rotary, we kind of keep getting fewer and fewer participants. So.
Sorry, my dog's gonna go crazy here for a minute. Okay, anybody else have any thoughts, any ideas? Anything out there? Courtney?
One of the things that we've been talking about at the city, and nothing's been officially decided yet, but is trying to recreate how we're doing summer series a bit in terms of not letting it go completely, just because it is something that the community loves so much. And right now, I think more than ever, we need some positive, fun things. And not only that, but just something that can safely bring people out of their houses, but still in their vehicles to remain safe and to keep that distance. But again, to get out of their house and support our businesses. And so one of those things has been a drive-in movie concept that we've kind of been talking about for the summer. Of course, that's all dependent on what the new regulations might be during that time. But if we were to do that, then we could possibly end it the week of 4th of July. And so that might be like I know that normally we have a movie in the park 4th of July weekend. So that might be another one of those things that we could kind of make it more 4th of July themed. And I guess a point to the food vendors. I think just like Mother's Day, we're working with the downtown businesses and our local businesses and independents in general to create Mother's Day picnic packs. I think we're also going to be working with them on creating types of movie snack packs for this drive-in movie concept. I think the same could go for 4th of July and getting the businesses downtown in Independence and Monmouth and throughout the whole city to kind of just focus on creating more picnic style food or 4th of July style food. And create kind of participating business partnerships with businesses that we already have, even if they're brick and mortar in town. So those are just kind of my additional thoughts to what you've already said.
No, that's a good idea. I like that. Anybody else? Somebody's got to have some ideas out there other than what we've tossed around. Okay, so then what are your thoughts about what's been presented? Does anybody have concerns about that? Does anybody not like any of the ideas?
The only idea I wasn't crazy about was buying fireworks and giving them away.
I told you should plug your ears for that part.
I waited for the firefighter to say something about it, but he just stopped.
So
our guys
how
are
can you
bored.
see
Firefighters like shiny, sparkly things.
How can you see it going differently, where we can still, have a somewhat of a fireworks show with the community that they do themselves.
I think we just have them light their own fireworks that they purchase, or maybe we can try to figure out get a discount at the Lions, the one at Ross store, and just have them all know that 10 o'clock is the time to do your show and do it all.
Yeah.
We've always done.
I know that you're in the park most of the time, Janice. So, but for those of us that are out and driving around, there is a pretty good fireworks show that goes on throughout town.
Okay.
Not all legal for
We
sure.
don't get to see that.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm with Chief Mason on, I don't think the city needs to provide that, but I think with the amount of money and the people knowing that they're probably not going anywhere, they're going to spend more money anyway on their own fireworks, and there's probably going to be pretty significant festivities in the neighborhoods. And I really like the idea of having those local vendors and putting them around town. I think it would encourage people to get out and go to other neighborhoods. I mean, I know, Pete's open and he's down there. He's a few blocks from my house, so I'll go down there and pick up lunch, and we've done some different food carts and stuff. But I think, around that time for us to, it would build, I think it would build that community in having folks moving around town and going to different neighborhoods, and just seeing some different people. I mean, it localizes. I do like the idea of not promoting it outside and not bringing outside people in. I think with everything going on, we just want to focus on our community. And I mean, it's gonna 4th of July is gonna happen, and people are gonna do it. It's just a matter of whether or not we're gonna be involved and to what degree. Okay.
So what are the thoughts about providing a day of activities, of scheduled activities, whether people want to participate or not? But if they choose to, having a schedule of activities out there that, we all kind of participate in at the same time, just from our own respective places.
I think if it was run kind of like the National Night Out stuff, then that everybody kind of has an idea of how that works. And then, we just post it and say 2 o'clock's a watermelon eating contest. Everybody, participate, post pictures, and kind of go from there. And I think it'll work pretty well.
And I like the idea of pushing it all out there at the same time. So like maybe some of our West Independence Day volunteers could be the videographers. I know Lisa's really good at putting stuff on Facebook. So like if we could all just maybe be posting our various videos at, on YouTube and Facebook of, oh, look at, this is what's going on in the B Street neighborhood, and this is what's going on over in Old Town and stuff like that, and all at the same time. And oh, look at how they did their craft, and oh, look at the fireworks going on over here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even what we're doing right now, I mean, if we all had a slice of watermelon and we did a competition and we threw it up live on YouTube, we could say this is so-and-so neighborhood finished their watermelon slice or finished their pie or whatever they're eating. The fastest person in their neighborhood was this. What neighborhood can beat that? And then it's, the next, next neighborhood, next set. I think there are still ways that we could get really interactive, especially with having this time beforehand where we're all having to do all this sort of teleworking and being online already.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea. That's good, because my thought process was kind of, it all had to happen at the same time, but I like that kind of revolving schedule.
And Dawson did say, I spoke with him briefly about how things may end up changing and the idea of doing things in neighborhoods, and that his role could possibly be much busier by doing social media, going around to the different neighborhoods and filming. And I think even, more importantly, getting the word out, what's going on and where and what time and all that.
I think it might be kind of cool to get maybe somebody from the airport to fly over at, 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and get a big picture of the town with all the little groups of people out on, their driveways or whatever. Would be kind of something cool to post. Or a drone flight up Main Street or Mama Street, or, through certain different residence areas. Be kind of cool just to get it out there.
Yeah, that would be. Lisa, doesn't Dawson have experience in that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Okay. I think we just need to really outline it for him. Yeah.
So what about our little events that we have, such as retiring the flag and honoring our vets? That's really become something that the community has gotten behind. Is that something that we still move forward on, and it just gets broadcasted over the air?
I think that's a good idea. I think we space it to where we're the legal distance apart and lower the flag and do what we can to make it happen and post it on the web.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
And we could still accompany quite a few people to come spectate that, with a little bit of organization. We could make it legal, right, for that. Even in today's standards, we could make it legal for that.
Yeah.
At least I think everybody's getting used to. Okay.
Yeah, if you do it at the Veterans Memorial downtown, I could video it from my apartment.
Oh, that's true. What are thoughts on Duck Derby? Is that something we scrap for this year? Do we move forward with it and just have it over the air? Out there, either on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, everywhere. We keep that tradition going this year.
What are the rules with selling things? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said do it and live stream it, and then that'll become the standard for all years, because it's hard to tell who's ducks winning anyway.
Yeah.
You get a drone hovering over the river, it'll become the new expectation that you'll have that forever, though. Just FYI.
And if you could find somebody who'd be a great announcer, hey, look at number 22 is taking the lead,
the mayor.
Oh, the mayor would love it.
Really hard to tell what number they are when the
I mean, that does seem simple enough in terms of setting it up online for people to pay for their ducks or to do those types of things online, right?
I don't know how much we want to advertise with the drone thing. Big yellow duck.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully we catch them all. Cross our fingers.
All right, move forward with Duck Derby.
I notice every time we talk about something technology-wise, Jason never unmutes.
No.
Not unmuting, Jason.
Okay. What else, guys?
We will need some boats to participate with the Duck Derby. Just putting it out there. Maybe jet ski or something.
Yeah.
And the river does get shallow quick.
Or some more pontoons.
Yeah.
Tom, you've been awful quiet. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I said I was just going to listen. So, I think the only thought that I have from a financial side of things is, just like, Chief can tell you, I've kind of taking a cautious approach. We know we're going to have some fiscal issues, and especially in this fund, we had expected a lot of transient lodging tax and revenue coming in, and that's just not going to be there. So I think from listening tonight, I think what would be best is for you guys to come up with a budget of what you kind of think this is all going to cost, and then send that to me so I can, make sure the funds are released so you can get things are done. We did, I believe today, make that payment for the fireworks to make sure that at least that initial payment got done, so that whenever the event is ready to go for fireworks, we'll be hopefully first in line there with them. So.
Okay, so I'll reach out to them tomorrow and let them know that we will not be needing those this year. And we did have a previous conversation that our mutually agreed upon date would be for our event in 2021. So they'll roll that deposit over for us.
Great.
Is the Duck Derby one of the only besides the entrance gates, what are the ways that Independence Days has income? Is Duck Derby one of them in entrance gates?
Vendors.
No, the Duck Derby. The
Vendors and
Duck Derby
sponsors.
doesn't. The Duck Derby doesn't generate a whole lot of money for us. We end up doing that kind of as a 50-50. And so 50% of the proceeds goes back to the, I think last year we did, the top 3 winners were a cash prize, and then the next 3 were gift certificates. We get our money from commissions from the carnival, gate entrance fees, and vendor fees. So
Sponsors.
What's that?
And sponsors.
Oh, yep, and sponsors. Anybody else? Got to be some ideas out there that we didn't touch on.
Well, Courtney and I talked about her drive-in movie idea earlier, and kind of along with her drive-in movie idea, she also had a concert viewing from, that same idea, viewing a concert, some musical performance from your car or right around your car, tailgating type idea. Courtney, have you gone anywhere with that, or is that still in the process? Or
I mean, that one's a little bit further out just because it's going to be a lot harder to, I think, create the necessary social distancing, at least for right now. Whereas the movie one is a lot more easier to make sure that we're following any guidelines, because we'd basically promote that people stay inside their vehicles through the whole show. Whereas, the concert concept was going to be more of like a tailgating concert where you get kind of like a 10 by 10 space or a 15 by 15 space. And, it's checkerboard out there, or you spray painted maybe out in one of our fields that we have, and basically set up your vehicle to where you're backed in tailgating the concert. And so, but I don't know if that's going to pan out right now. I haven't done more, but I do like the concept. It's a little bit more, I think, challenging than the movies.
Okay. Well, I think that we've got a good place to start, and a good place to start moving forward. I don't see, I don't know, unless anybody has any other ideas, I think we've come up with a good list of ways to move forward with changing what it's going to look like. If nobody has anything to add to it, then it's time for us just to start engaging some help from the community to make things happen with maybe packaging up family activities and getting them delivered to families, and then for us to move forward with kind of putting together what the day is going to look like and reaching out to those vendors. So if nobody has any other concerns or ideas, I think we can call it a night and start thinking about what's next.
Janice, at this point, are you only focusing on July 4th, not around it at all, just on the one day, right?
Yeah, just Saturday.
And with the parade, I just have a question about the parade. Are you thinking that would it still be, if we did the parade, would you still want to partner with Monmouth? Would it need to be ran by Rotary, or could we do something if Rotary decided they didn't want to manage the parade? Is there still some type of resemblance of the parade that we could do?
I think
I know that there's been go ahead.
I think what you were doing on Fridays was a pretty good idea. And we just kind of continue with that, and it doesn't have to be as big themed, but run around town to all the different neighborhoods and have people.
Well, especially how we had like a fire department representative and a police department representative, and then we had like a specialty float. I think there is a way that maybe you could break it up into having 4 or 5 floats, run down 4 or 5 different routes throughout town. Granted, they're not going to be able to go down every street, but most neighborhoods would be hit. So,
and just make all 4 or 5 of them kind of take the same route eventually,
I think that's a great idea. The response that I've been getting about your Friday events is huge. People love it, and especially when they're we're kind of stuck at home. And it's, yeah, I love that idea, especially with the seniors being involved in it.
It would actually be a lot
Karen.
easier. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Neil.
It would be a lot easier for us to do that, because the parade, when it's the full parade, it really breaks down the community, chops it up for us. So our response is difficult. So we put some apparatus in the parade, and then we have most of our people are staged throughout town. So if it was to go like that, I mean, we could probably put, you know, at least one, maybe two vehicles in each group to go around. So that would be easier for us.
Yeah.
I really like that idea.
And that'd be cool, because then you could have, you know, you guys and the police officers, and then a few seniors in each parade, you know, and then just kind of have something similar but different in each one of them. So.
Yeah,
Karen, how's the? Go ahead, Courtney.
I was just going to add that's a great, you know, advertising and marketing for businesses. So how wonderful to be able to maybe even offer some local businesses to be able to put, you know, a parade float and something like that. That might just help enhance the vibe of more of a community feel too.
Karen, has the Rotary found anybody to step into the shoes to do the parade, or are you guys just kind of taking it on as a group right now?
Well, so far it's Jim Birkin who did it in the years past. So,
okay.
So he'd be the one that you would want to contact.
Okay. I have his contact info from the previous year, so I can reach out to him. Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Janice, I think when we go forward with trying to figure out the volunteer situation, I think it might be a good way to get people involved is break us down into neighborhoods and say we need volunteers from each neighborhood and assign captains and co-captains for each neighborhood. And that might help generate some volunteers who maybe wouldn't have volunteered previously, but they have some pride in their neighborhood and want to represent.
Yeah. So do we want to have somebody here on the commission, you know, or a couple of us figuring out what the different neighborhoods are, kind of breaking them down? How many neighborhoods are we going to have, and how big, how small, that kind of thing?
Chief, do you have some kind of breakdown of neighborhoods? Neighborhoods?
We don't have a good idea. Thing, but we definitely, Courtney has pretty much developed this already with trial and error with Fantastic Fridays. So she could probably sketch out her routes in no time.
Great. That'd be perfect.
Okay.
I think just to put it in there, been thinking about the vendor power thing. We could still utilize Riverview Park for some of it, just spacing the vendors out if they do come, and making it a one-way flow of traffic or something, so that we could put a few vendors down there that we can't power with a generator or something. So just ideas.
I think my concern with that, if we utilize the park in any way, I think my concern with that is it would be looked at as an open invitation for people to come down there and start gathering. And I don't know if that would be the case if we just had a couple of vendors down there, but that would be my concern, is if we do anything inside the park, people are going to start coming and congregating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it is such a nice big space. It would be a shame to just let it be totally empty.
Mm-hmm.
We can figure out a way to utilize it.
We're seeing that downtown some now with, you know, our downtown businesses that are still open. We're seeing people congregate with social distancing, but it's happening.
Yeah. And we could patrol the park and say, hey, you know, make sure you stay 6 feet apart, or sign it and say, don't get too close together.
You know, set up picnic tables that are within the social distancing guideline and anchor them down so they can't be moved and that kind of thing.
Concrete blocks.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to admit, I'm kind of with Janice on this one. I think that could really get out of hand in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to be spread pretty thin trying to pull this off anyways. I think if we keep our focus really tight, I think we're going to have more success with what we are trying to pull off.
Okay.
I do want to ask, what should should I put out a statement to the vendors that we are, I mean, Janice, we can talk about this, separately, but I need to look at how I need to word that and get that word out and where and when.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll take care of that. I think through just a massive email that we can send out to everybody, as well as, our social media and website. Our website's going to be a big one because that's where the vendors all go to get their applications. So we can put some information up on there as well. But yeah, we can handle that outside of tonight.
I have one more thought. Like, obviously we still have the fireworks, and I think like the community is still going to want, that big celebration once we are actually able to gather without restriction. Has there been any thought or discussion about, after, let's say it's back in August, or it gets, pushed back in September, but having some type of, I can't remember what I called it when I pitched it to Sean, but it was like a Easter, De Mayo, 4th of July. Like, it's basically all of the holidays that we had to push to the side and basically do some type of big, or it was like a Saint, Easter, I can't remember. It was all of the holidays that we had to push aside with COVID. And could that be, I guess, I don't know, because I guess it's the income, right? That's why the fireworks are kind of being pushed off. But it would be awesome to have some type of big celebration with a big fireworks show, just because it's kind of like, we're back.
Tom, do you want to talk about that? That's something that you and I had talked about it like for a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I had a few thoughts on that. First off, I think everybody is probably going to try to have some sort of celebration, and I think in Independence we talk about doing things at the end of the speed of Independence. I think that's one that we would have to do, but I think there's going to be a ton of support to do that. I think we can probably get a ton of volunteers to actually step up to do that. So I would hope that we could put something together in very short order. We might want to do some pre-planning and thinking about what that might look like. But I think we'll find the money somehow. We'll figure out what we can do. But if this commission's interested in kind of helping guide that, I think that it would be something that would be remembered for a long time.
I think Tom kind of gave me a heart attack when him and I were talking, and he had suggested that we just roll our fireworks over into this big community party. And I was like, wait, we won't have fireworks next year because we won't have the money for them. So we talked at length about that, but yeah, we kind of worked through that. So, all right. Any final thoughts from anybody? No? I think it would be important then to, we kind of called this meeting on a night that we normally wouldn't have it, so that we could get some answers out to the community versus waiting another couple of weeks, and answers out to our vendors and stuff. So we'll go ahead and move forward on a message out on our social media and our website, specifically to our community. I know that they're really, really counting on having something, something that our community just needs something fun to do. And I'm glad that we can all come together to facilitate that. I want to go ahead and stick with our regularly scheduled meeting in the next 2 weeks so that we can get moving on planning and really sit down and just have a really hard, fast planning meeting to where we leave in 2 weeks with a set plan of what needs to be done. Get that budget to you, Tom, so that we can get that all taken care of and handled, and start working on the logistics of it. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
This is super awkward going over video.
It's become
Okay.
so normal, Janice, it isn't even awkward anymore. Weird.
Wow.
I'm just
I don't
watching
know.
the square.
I have the luxury of just calling in and not sitting on video. So, yeah, this is not normal for me yet. So, all right. Well, unless anybody has, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you want, we can publish this video on YouTube so you can go watch it over and over again.
No, I'm good. All right. Well, if nobody else has anything, let's call it a night, and I will hopefully see most of you in 2 weeks. Everybody good?
Yep.
Bye.
All right. Good night.
Yep.